Hello, hello, hello. Today is April 11th, 2024. And by the title of today's video, Is Everything Ego? What I mean is our choices. Is everything we do dictated by our ego? Now, of course, if you know anything about psychology, you know that there also is the id and the superego. And I'll talk about whether or not I truly feel as if they're non existent later in the video. But ultimately, what I've kind of come to discern for myself is that perhaps the ego is a bit more responsible for everything else than we thought, or at least what I thought, and that's why I'm sharing it. So this idea sort of has some cynical origins. The idea itself may be labeled as cynical. I would understand that, but indeed, I got the idea through a bit of cynicism. So, I'm walking around school, and obviously, a lot of people wear different kinds of outfits. When you're, a Gen Z person and you see hundreds of people in and around your age each and every day, you're bound to see differences in aesthetics. And so that's sort of where it began, is this notion of aesthetic pursuit. Now, I saw someone who is dressed up in what I could only call goth clothing. I'm not going to act like I know the nuances of all that stuff, but it's like a lot of the time you feel as if there are certain individuals who claim not to be self-centered, and yet they're just like that. Now I get it. Feel free to slam me in the comments, but I'm going to go on to explain some more. Another example you could conjure up is if you've ever been to a music festival or if you live in San Francisco and so on, people who say they've had ego death, yet they sort of, clearly show that they don't, and they clearly show that they are indeed still self-centered, at least to some extent. Like, I'm more enlightened than everyone else. Just saw a clip the other day of someone saying, like, Buddha became enlightened at 35 and I became enlightened at 19. Like, okay, so there's that as well. But then I checked myself. I was like, indeed, my ego right now is trying to make itself feel better by putting others down, not actually, but within my mind. And, makes me feel better because they're worse than me. So, while there may be some truth to the idea, at the end of the day, there is that to keep in mind. But still, I do think that this idea has a bit of ground. Obviously, things from the clothes we buy, things we say, people we hang out with, and so on, all of those sort of have dependency on the ego. You think about clothes. I can think of a multitude of instances where even me, myself, I've bought something to make myself feel better, or, I buy something to get myself out of a negative space. Ultimately those kind of ends are the same, but different means. So, and then the question, you can take it further. Could it be that we even consciously or unconsciously, which I guess I'll get to in just a sec, walk a certain way because of ego, or, keep our hands situated in a certain way? I, all the time, especially back in public school, would like only rest my hands a certain way because I think my ego is taking over and saying, this is the way you're going to be best perceived. And then, again, admittedly, I've been there when it comes to walking. I catch myself walking. I'm like, you're walking funny, dude. You gotta walk like a man, or something like that. So perhaps even more than what we sort of typically or frequently regard the ego responsible for, perhaps it's more. And if the id is unconscious or instinctual, as, returning to Freud there, we can't say much about it. Obviously, you can say something about a dog's instinct. You get to see it displayed, but because we know they're not rational creatures like us. But even if you're going to say that, oh, I did this out of gut instinct, introspection, in my opinion, lacks epistemic coverage in ways that I think pure reasoning doesn't. Now we're starting to get pretty deep into the weeds, but introspection about certain things, about actions especially, I think we lack epistemic coverage. And by that, I just mean how much of said thing do we know? I think, if you say I ran away from someone because it was instinct, you didn't necessarily have good reason to run away or flee from someone. Is the epistemic coverage truly there? And so all I'm really trying to say is that what we can say about the id is limited, in my opinion. And if that is not true, please let me know in the comments below. But I've obviously been feeling a bit Mysterian lately. Shout out if you know. And then when it comes to the superego, I think that while it may make itself consciously known to us, we can do a simple thought experiment to show that being aware of supposed moral dictation can be driven by or dependent on ego. I'm clearly looking at my notes here, but bear with me. And that thought experiment is the selfish giver. I don't know if any of y'all know, but there are people in my life that I've encountered where they're only giving because others start to perceive them in a more positive manner. They help you out so that you respect them more or something like that. Pretty simple. And so you might claim that that person is morally right a lot of the time, and they're a good person, up until the moment you know that they are a selfish giver. That's what your idea of them would be like. And so our super ego is making moral judgment, supposedly, and yet it's wrong. And then I've also been there before too, where I am the selfish giver. And I think your superego contributes to your ego, or perhaps your id, I guess. It contributes to it in a way that's supplemental, not necessarily overriding the entire process and leading the charge of personality, if that makes sense. But at the end of the day, I'm not a psychologist, and it's not as if I keep up with advanced psychological literature. But for me, the tripartite sort of division, id, superego, and ego, that Freud gave us such a long time ago, that division of personality may be more singular than we thought. So let me know what you think about that. In terms of today, I got off to a kind of a slow start, but managed to kind of rebound and have a good day so far. And now I'm staying at a family member's house while they're gone for a funeral. So that's nice. I have my dog that I grew up with. But besides me and my dog, I'm alone. So like a few minutes ago, I heard a noise, and you just get to thinking. But yeah, I'm also meeting with a professor in about an hour and a half to discuss, should I be a professor? Because that sort of time to really start staking grounds and staking into the ground of a career is really coming on strong. And it'll officially be here by the end of this year. So definitely, I think an aspect of why I've been stressed lately, I've been looking, it's like, should I start smoking weed again? And then I'm like, no, we probably shouldn't. Which, I guess just to say, I obviously have, I just said it, done that before, but overall now it's extremely, extremely occasional. No matter how many people in the comments like to think that I'm high, once a month at most. So yeah, just generally stressed out, but still like in the day-to-day and the more micro scale, I think I'm doing fine. But the macro is looming large. But it is Thursday. It's a relatively nice day outside for me. I hope it is for you. And yeah, like the video if you liked the video, and share it if you liked the video. Peace and love.